The Boy at the Back of the Class, Chapter 3, 40 Wings. The next day, and the next day. After that, I smiled at the new boy and gave him a friendly wink just as often as I could. My goal was to give him at least 40 winks a day because that's what Mom says everyone needs. But after a while, my eyebrows started to feel funny. I could tell the new boy was finding it interesting because he stopped looking at everyone else and kept looking at me. But then Michael saw me trying to wink with both my eyes, one after the other, and said I looked like I needed a doctor. He probably said that because I can't wink with my left eye as well as I can with my right eye, so I decided to stop winking quite as much. That week, Mrs. Can was teaching us all about photosynthesis and gave each of us a small pot with a seed in it to look after. Everyone was excited because she said there would be a prize for whoever grew the best plant. Even the new boy got one, and I think it made him happy because he kept looking at it. I tried to whisper lots of cheerful words like rainbow and popcorn and marshmallows to mine because I read somewhere that if you tell plants about happy things, it makes them grow quicker. I had never won a prize before, not even at the fair. I thought if I tried really hard and kept talking to my plant, I might win this time. And if I couldn't win, then I wanted the new boy to, because he really seemed to like the plant. But I was worried about Brandon, the bully Brooker. He's the class bully. His cheeks are always pink because he spent most of his time chasing around anyone smaller than him around the playground. He's not very bright and hates anyone that is. If anyone gets a good grade in class or a prize, he will try to beat them up after school. I saw him looking at Emma's plant and narrowing his eyes, just like he always does when he's thinking of something mean to do. I didn't like it one bit. His most common trick is to trip you up with his foot. He also likes to tip you up your lunch tray as he walks by so that your food dribbles down your chest like runny eggs. He has done that to me a few times. Sometimes he gets caught, but most of the time he doesn't. And even when he doesn't get caught, he doesn't get detention. Even when he does get caught, he doesn't get detention. Most of the teachers seem to like him, though. Maybe it's because when he smiles, he looks like one of those boys who sing in a church choir on television. Mr. Thompson used to call him not a good name, which must be a good word, but he always gave Brandon the bully wink and pat on the back whenever he said it, and then let him run off again. That made everyone else in class except for Liam and Chris, Brandon, the bully's only two friends, hate him even more. Even the bullies in the upper grades find him annoying. It's funny how bullies don't like other bullies. Maybe it stopped them from feeling special. But in school, everyone knows who the bullies are and who they like to bully, and no two bullies can go after the same person. It's a strange system, but those are the rules and everyone sticks to them, even the teachers. But Mrs. Can is different. She doesn't seem to like Brandon, the bully, as much as the other teachers. She's always watching him, and ever since we were put in her class, he has been careful not to do anything around her. I'm still going to keep an eye on him, though. Soon after the new boy joined our class, lots of rumors about him began to be passed around the playground like an invisible game of hot potato. Most people believed Jenny and said the new boy must be dangerous and that's why he was never allowed out. But then other people started saying he had a super contagious disease and that he was a real reason why we weren't allowed to talk to him. The disease rumor scared Clarissa so much that she tried to sit as far as away from him as she could without leaving her chair. One time she leaned over so far that she crashed right onto the floor. She didn't lean over so much after that, but she always put her arms around up or used a notebook as a divider. I didn't think the new boy looked the least bit dangerous or like he had a most infectious disease, so the rumor I thought sounded the most true was that was the one that said he was from a super rich family and his parents had sent him to our school undercover so that he wouldn't be kidnapped. Michael said kidnappers wouldn't come to our school to look for him because it wasn't in a fancy area, and Tom agreed. He said that when he had moved from America, his older brothers had told him they must be poor now because they were going to live in poor end of London and not in the rich end. I didn't really understand what he meant because London doesn't have ends. On map it just looks like a spilled blob of jam. I wanted to ask the new boy if the rumor about the kidnappers was true and if he needed us to become his bodyguards. But he was still doing all his lessons on his own, and during every break and lunchtime he would disappear, so no one except for Clarissa could talk to him. And she didn't want to. I tried to catch his eye so I could smile at him and whisper hello, but Mrs. Khan caught me and told me to pay attention to my work. Next, I tried to send him a note made into paper plane because I'm good at those, but it flew wonkily and hit Nigel on the head instead. He is tattletale and told on me right away. I had tattletales because they seem to like getting people into trouble more than anything else in the world, and they always smile when they are doing it. Mrs. Khan came and took the note and read it just to herself. She shook her head at me, but I think she must have found the drawing. I made funny because her mouth gave a tiny smile that only I could see. Even though I didn't get lectured, I knew it would be too risky to send any more messages by airmail, especially with tattletales around. The next day at recess, Josie, Tom, Michael, and I decided to follow the new boy and find out where he was going. But Mrs. Khan caught us following him in the hall and told us not to do it again. She didn't seem angry, but she did say that the new boy needed to be in seclusion for a little while longer and that it was for his own good. And so we promised not to follow him anymore. What does seclusion mean? Asked Josie when he went back out onto the playground. None of us knew exactly, not even Michael, although he said it sounded as if the new boy needed to have private treatment like a really sick person in a hospital. So maybe he did have an infectious disease after all. But it wasn't long until we find out what seclusion really meant, why the new boy needed so much of it.